Hello, hello. Good evening, and welcome to another week of Stars, Stripes, and Anfield Nights. Tonight we have Paul and Brandon with us. Start with Paul. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing pretty good, man. I'm still trying to recover from the weekend, but with each passing day, and we get closer to the next game, the recovery is slowly, but it's coming on. So hopefully by Friday, Saturday, I should be fine.
Yeah, I'm already trying to put it in my rearview mirror myself. I'm just like,
Mm.
don't think about it. We've moved forward. But Brandon, how are you doing tonight, and how are you feeling?
I'm doing all right. In honor of our sick friend Colin, I'm wearing a Pittsburgh Riverhounds hoodie here for him. Hopefully he gets better and is back on the show next
Mm.
week. But overall, good. I mean, rough weekend, but it's got to happen every once in a while. So onwards and upwards, or whatever they got to say.
Yeah, still a lot of games to play, a lot to look forward to in the future, and that ringer will bring us right to the first topic for the night, which is LFC moving for Xabi Alonso. So there are reports coming out that Liverpool have contacted Bayer Leverkusen over their managerial vacancy for next football season, inquiring over the availability to speak to Xabi Alonso. Long linked Liverpool favorite for the role. So pretty exciting news to see reports linking us to Xabi Alonso and making that first inquiry. Trying to look up the exact quote. It's we got it from Foot Mercado via Get French Football News, which seems to be given the 3/4 moon quota for us, which we think is pretty reliable for a transfer news source. So it looks like we have gone and inquired about Xabi Alonso's vacancy for next season with Bayer Leverkusen and at least made the initial approaches. Paul, how do you feel about that? Us making the approach this early in the season? Do you think it's a distraction? Are you happy that we're making those initial steps? What's your overall feeling about the news here?
I like what I'm seeing and hearing. I think one of the reasons it was important for the announcement with Klopp leaving to come out as early as it did was to allow the club enough time to do their search, to do their due diligence, without having all of these rumors all over the place. If you listen to all of the interviews that Xabi Alonso has given since the news break, he's actually saying the right thing. He's expressing, being happy in his present job, which is what you would expect him to say and to do. Um, he is not denying nor confirming that he has an interest in Liverpool. The fact that he's not confirming, that's no surprise. That's what you expect him to say. The fact that he's not denying it, sure that there is a lot of interest. So all of the signs pointing to Xabi Alonso being our next coach. Um, so yeah, I'm fairly confident that we'll get him.
Okay. And Brandon, what about you? Do you think this is a distraction at the moment? Do you think it's just a necessary step? And how do you feel about the overall Xabi Alonso being the prospect for the role and us reaching out to him?
Yeah, I think distraction. I mean, the club the size of Liverpool and obviously the vacancy that Klopp's going to leave, you have to expect that it's going to be dominating headlines for the next few months. So I don't really think it can be a distraction. It's just an expectation. Excuse me. In terms of like who we need as the manager, like Xabi ticks every single box that you kind of want. Exciting, young enough, ambitious enough, plays good football, and he's proving he can kind of go beyond an expectation with the squad, because I don't think anybody going into the season really would have thought Leverkusen would be pushing for a title the way they are right now. So, I mean, if he can work wonders like he did with Leverkusen with us, like that's a big plus. And also, I think the key to also for the fans losing somebody that's as beloved as Klopp, it has to be somebody that the fans also like really respect. Like, and Alonso obviously has that respect from the fans from his time with us and just how he's always spoken about the club as well. Even after he left, he still spoke unbelievably highly of his time at the club and how much he loved Liverpool. So, I mean, I think to fill that void, it's just it's almost too perfect of a puzzle piece not to be the right piece. So that's my belief. What about yourself, Drew?
Yeah, it does have that storytelling aspect to it, and it kind of always happens to Liverpool. Istanbul just going down the lines to Alisson's 90th stoppage time winning goal, header goal, that kind of stuff. It seems to be fairy tales seem to come true a lot at Liverpool, and the Xabi Alonso news just seems the perfect kind of remedy to the sickness that you get when you think of Klopp leaving Liverpool. So I'm happy we're making inquiries, and like you said, I think it's just it's something you'd expect at this point. Just needs to be done, and I think that's why Klopp came out too and made the statement when he did. He was worried maybe a little bit of it being leaked and wanted to get out in front of it as well, because news doesn't stay hidden for that long, even though Liverpool do an amazing job at keeping things under wraps for the most part. But I'm excited about Xabi Alonso. Hopefully we can get him to take over from Klopp, because I definitely feel that would be the right move going forward. We'll see if it happens, though. And question I'll pose to you guys next, start with Paul. It looks like, as far as nostalgia and going back to clubs you love, Xabi Alonso might have more than one option if you look at Real Madrid and Bayern Munich. I know Carlo Ancelotti is probably sticking around maybe a little longer, but he does have that Brazil job, I think, up in the air. And then Bayern Munich is certainly looking at Tuchel, and Xabi Alonso himself might be the one that outs Bayern from their ongoing record of winning the Bundesliga. So rumors that Bayern Munich would look for him as a replacement as Tuchel, rumors. But do you think Xabi Alonso would prefer Liverpool over Real Madrid and Bayern? What do you think of the Liverpool project for a manager like Xabi Alonso? Do you think it's the right move for him, or do you think it'd be a better move to go to a Bayern or a Real Madrid?
Well, to be honest, all of these three clubs are three of the top clubs in world football, in terms of attracting managers with option. The Real Madrid is considered by most to be the number one club in world football. And with the kind of talent that they have in that club, I could see why Real Madrid would pose a threat. But at the same time, at the moment, there's no vacancy at Real Madrid, because Ancelotti just signed, I think, another 2-year extension, and I don't see him leaving at least for next season. So he will be at Madrid for another season at the very least. So I don't think you'd have a situation where Xabi would postpone a sure thing if he's offered Anfield, to wait on that, and there's no certainty that he will get it, even if a vacancy should arise. As it relates to Bayern Munich, there is a lot of pressure in Germany, and I think Bayern has won the last 9 or 10 championship, so there's that pressure. But at the same time, if you want to establish yourself as a top manager, the Premier League is the way to go. If you go to Bayern Munich and you win, nobody will really. It is expected to win, just like when the Chelsea manager now here, the present manager, when he won with PSG. I could probably coach PSG to the championship over in France, right? So Liverpool, to me, has the best challenge of the three. And plus, if you look at the squad of players that we have a very good crop of young, talented players. Xavi is he's in his mid-40s, so he's not an old guy. So I would want to believe that we would be the most appealing job of the three. And the fact that we are the only one of the three that has a clear vacancy. If we are talking to him from now, I would expect us to get at least a verbal agreement within the next month or two. So at the moment, I don't have an immediate fear of losing him to the other two, but until we have him signed on the dotted line, you just never know.
Yeah, 100%. It will definitely get anxious moments as the longer and longer this goes on. But Brandon, how about you? Where do you think, from Xabi Alonso's perspective, the most attractive job would be? Would it be, or in the right next move for him, given that potential of possibly Real Madrid? You know, Paul said that Ancelotti did sign that extension, but it's also the rumor with Brazil. So most likely he'll stick around in Real Madrid. But let's just pretend that's on the table. Bayern Munich is definitely a little more potentially open, especially if Xabi ousts them from the top of the league for their historic run of Bundesligas. What do you think's the right move for him? And yeah, we'll go with that.
Well, being as unbiased as possible, Liverpool's obviously the best choice of the three. Now, let's say if all three jobs are available at the same time, if Real Madrid comes knocked in, like it's pretty impossible to kind of turn that one down, because as much as, you know, Liverpool is everything, like, kind of to me sports wise, Real Madrid is the bigger club in the world. It's the biggest club in the world. It's a different stratosphere. And then with Bayern Munich, I think kind of they're a victim of their own success. Like, they're too good for the Bundesliga. Like, they, you know, obviously winning 10 straight, but what they've got, I think they won a couple Champions Leagues in there. One of those being the odd COVID year where the competition had to be changed and there wasn't like double knockouts. It was just like a single knockout phase throughout the whole thing. That with Liverpool's like kind of project we're going on, kind of how Paul was touching on with all of our young players, I've kind of said it on here a few times. I bet other people have said it too, that this team's not a finished product, and it's kind of outperforming what the expectation kind of should have been for the year. Like, most expectation would have been get back in the top four, you know, kind of get this midfield kind of rebuilt, see where we're at next season, retool. Yeah, we're pushing for all four competitions at the moment. So I think that's the biggest attractive thing for Liverpool, is like, this is a team that's going to grow. This is something you can come in and kind of mold to what you want. It's not a team you have to kind of rebuild from the ground up or get a few players out to get your players in. It's like, it's a team that's ready to kind of be molded to whatever that next manager wants. Of the three jobs, like I said, Real Madrid would be the top one. But like I said, with Ancelotti in there, I think it just leaves no doubt it should be Liverpool. I just don't think Munich would be quite as attractive as what the Liverpool project is at the moment.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's sort of perfect timing for all of that. And one of the things, I know FSG gets a lot of blame, and, you know, sometimes rightly so, sometimes wrongly so, but they do tend to give managers at least a proper go at it. They gave Brendan Rodgers a chance with the club. You know, Klopp's had 9 years. I guess Kenny Dalglish had a fair bit of a run, but that was always a temporary stopgap. And then I guess Roy Hodgson, you know, they had to do what they had with him. But it seems like he'd be given, Xabi Alonso would be given, you know, a project to work with. Like you said, you know, Paul said, there's young players in the team. There's stuff that you can build and really make your own going forward. And, you know, FSG seemed to be ones that would give him time to do that. So definitely an attractive offer, in my opinion. I'm curious, though, if it's a step too soon, maybe. You know, we look at Gerrard as one who took the step to Villa after having an amazing season over in the Scottish Premiership. But, yeah, we'd hope we'd be able to make the jump. I think Xabi Alonso is different than the Gerrard case, especially in the Bundesliga, way more competitive than the Scottish Premier League. But definitely exciting news, and one we'll keep an eye on moving forward. But other news coming out this week would be our 5th round FA Cup opponents, which is Southampton. I believe they beat Watford today 3-0, and they will be our opponents on the 28th of February for that 5th round of the FA Cup. Paul, how do you feel about that matchup, and what do you think our chances are in the FA Cup, and where we should place it in the scale of importance moving forward?
Well, we have always put a lot of importance on these cups, and I think Klopp wants to win as much as he can. Southampton will be a tricky opponent. I mean, yes, we should be firm favourites. One is the championship team, plus we are playing at Anfield. But in a one-off game, you just never know. I think they are second or third in the championship. I think they may be second. So they are no mugs. I didn't get to watch the game today, but they have good players. And coming to Anfield, they will be up to the challenge. So we need to put out a decent squad. But I think we'll be firm favorites to beat them. I don't think they have any world beaters on their team. And as I said, they're in the championship, but they're probably not necessarily a championship team. I think they might be a little bit better than the championship. They should have been in the Premier League, but we know what happened last year, and I'm sure they're coming back up. So it will be a tricky game. I was rooting for Watford to win that matchup, because Watford, of course, will be a way easier opponent for us. But it is what it is. They are next on our schedule if we want to win the FA Cup. We could have gotten worse draws, because we could have gotten Man City. You never know. So I will take it. But it will not be as easy a walkover like what we encounter when we play Norwich City 2 weeks ago, because Southampton is a decent team. I think they're good enough to compete in the lower end of the Premier League. So it will be a good matchup, but we should win.
Yeah, 100%. I agree with you too. We should definitely not take them lightly. And I think after the Klopp news, a lot of teams, managers, players will be looking to, kind of get their chance in the limelight with all eyes on Liverpool, with Klopp's last season. So a lot of people are going to be tuning in, see that, and possibly be party crashers for Liverpool. So Southampton definitely have a solid squad, as you said, second in the championship right now and flying forward. Another aspect of it being, I believe that game is 3 days after our League Cup final with Chelsea. So Brandon, how do you feel about Southampton in this fifth round of the FA Cup? And given that context, 3 days after the League Cup final, how do you think we're gonna approach that with the more, I guess, the bigger game in that context being on Sunday against Chelsea?
Yeah, I think kind of how you saying, like, ranking, like, the importance, like right now the FA Cup would be fourth, since it is still, eyes aren't quite to the final yet. Whereas, like, obviously we're playing for a cup against Chelsea a couple days before that. Europa League, obviously we want to win that just because it gives Klopp a lot. And then Premier League being the number one. Southampton are a good side. I think they kind of struggled starting out the gates this year, if I'm thinking correctly, but they've kind of came on really strong. They were pulled in Ipswich, who were, like, for a while neck and neck with Leicester, then kind of fell off as well. Yeah, Southampton is probably too good for the championship. This should be a good game, but as like Paul was saying, at Anfield, there's no reason why we're losing this game, even if we, have to play a big emotional game against Chelsea a couple days before that. Hopefully we just put Chelsea to the sword like we did at Anfield last week, and we don't have to, be nail biting our way through penalties again in a cup final at Wembley. But I don't know. We've navigated this before against better teams. So, I mean, I'm not overly anxious. Obviously, got to play the game. Southampton is a pretty solid team. They still got some talented guys down there, especially for the championship side. And they'll be having all sorts of confidence and all sorts of wanting to spoil the party for Liverpool. But I don't know. It's just right now, I trust this team to always come through. Like, we didn't get to at the weekend, but, Arsenal's a really good team. So that's going to happen from time to time. So, I mean, but at the same time, we've watched this come back from 1-0 down way too many times this year. So I'm not all that worried about championship side coming to Anfield. There we go.
Right.
Yeah,
because if I can just chip in there too, why I'm kind of extra very confident. Who did we play from the championship in the Carabao Cup? Was it Leicester? We played, and I think Leicester is leading the championship, correct?
Yeah, they're like 11 points clear.
Right, and we handled them fairly comfortable. Well, we won. Plus, when you look at the depth of our squad too, we have 6 midfielders, so whichever 3 we want to play, they should be good enough. Our back 4, if we decide to rest Van Dijk and Konate, we still have Kwanzaa, we still have Joe Gomez, we still have Bradley. So the point I'm trying to make is, whatever this 11 players that the manager put out there, our second 11, I think, should be better than Southampton's first 11. And to couple that with playing at home and with all of the excitement around, trying to send Klopp away with 4 trophies, I think we should be able to get by Southampton. I would be extremely disappointed if we don't.
100%, Paul. I definitely like what you're saying. The backup squad too is like more than capable of facing a Southampton. And I think what I really like from these youngsters coming up, Kwanzaa and Conor Bradley, when they came out and said that, the Trent and Matip basically like not quite as move out of the way, but like got to take your chances and that kind of attitude. I love seeing that hungry attitude from a young player and putting themselves out there. And, chances are both of them, maybe Conor Bradley has a shot at the squad, depending on where Trent's at and how Klopp wants to approach that Chelsea game, especially after how he did against Chelsea last week. But regardless of who plays in the final, like you said, Paul, whoever's going to play in that game against Southampton, probably chomping at the bit and hopefully wanting to continue a trophy run after getting the first trophy in the back. But I'm going to jump to a topic that isn't in the title, but one we mentioned in our chat before the game. And Paul briefly touched on our availabilities of midfielders at this moment. And that brings up for me the topic of Dominik Szoboszlai being injured and set to miss a few games for Liverpool. There's been conflicting reports coming out right now over the length of his absence, the injury, and how long it's going to keep him out of the squad. I think the initial reports out of Hungary were like 5-6 weeks, and now it's saying it's shorter than that, but there's no clear timeline given at this moment. The club hasn't said anything. So I'll start with you, Brendan. What do you think the Szoboszlai news, and what do you think, given our next 5 fixtures, which is potentially what he'll miss, what is our best midfield going forward?
Obviously, it's majorly disappointing. Szoboszlai has been very, very good this season and very important. At the same time, like, we can get through this. We have a tremendous depth at midfield now, especially with Endo coming back. Like, it just adds levels to it. Even may not want him to, but McConnell played pretty well against Norwich. Like, maybe he can be called upon if absolutely need be. Obviously, with Bradley, the way he's playing, that can also add an element of maybe moving Trent over to midfield if need be. Like, we have options that we can get through Szoboszlai's injury. I don't want to see him injured. I love watching the guy play. I love the way he gets into certain areas that we haven't seen from Klopp midfield for years, like getting in for the header against Chelsea, like getting that far forward. I mean, I'm trying to remember the last time we had a midfielder that was always willing to get into the box like that. I mean, Genie, when we were down, would do that stuff, but usually nobody would. So it's upsetting that he's not going to be playing, because I like watching him play. I think our best midfield 3 moving forward right now might be a shout of Wataru, McAllister, and Jones, moving McAllister kind of into Szoboszlai, is kind of on the right side of the midfield 3. I think Curtis right now has consistently been one of our best midfielders for 2.5 months now. And I think Wataru, the way he played heading into the Asian Cup, that I think that's an option definitely to be putting him in that conversation to be able to shielding that back line.
Yeah, he's definitely in my starting 11 when he's up to speed. Hopefully, I don't know how much it'd take out of him, the Asia Cup, traveling for all that. I imagine the heartbreak of not advancing with Japan. But when he's up and ready, I'd love to have him in the squad, proper center defensive midfielder. And for me, McAllister and Jones. Definitely agree with you. I think they're the strongest at the moment with what's available, although we have many options. And Paul, how do you see our midfield moving forward? And who's the best options? And how do you think Klopp's going to play it over the next 5 games or so without Szoboszlai?
So assuming that Szoboszlai is not available, then our best midfield three would be Endo at the 6 and Maka a little bit forward. So it would be Jones, McAllister, and Endo. I am not sure what to do with Trent, to be honest, if Bradley is available, because I don't know, Bradley is a proper defender, and I was quite disappointed with Trent over the weekend. I think he was a little bit scared of going into a tackle, and Martinelli seemed to have him on skates. So, I'm really not sure what to do with Trent. I guess for the next 4 or so games, we will not be facing a left winger like Martinelli, so we might not have that problem. So, so if we are going to try Trent as a part of a midfield three, then the next couple of games coming up would be the perfect scenario for us to try him in that role. But going forward, I am not yet convinced that Trent can be a part of a midfield three. And that was why I was so happy with him playing that right back role and then inverting into midfield, because then he has that protection beside him, be it whether it's McAllister or Endo. But then when you see Bradley offer a different dimension, yes, he doesn't invert, but the way he plays down that touchline reminds me of Andy Robertson in 2019-2020. The way he offers the width. If you look at that goal that Szoboszlai scored against Chelsea, you could see that Van Dijk look up and saw Bradley with all of the width on his right side, and that long diagonal pass over to him, and he just take it to the byline and put the ball on, in the spot in the 6-yard box. Now with Trent inverting, we kind of lose that, So there is pros to having Trent inverting, but there's also that con in that we'll lose the width. So it's a lot of things for the manager to consider. But I am not so sure if I'm ready to see Trent in a midfield three. But I guess we need to find out. Because if we are having these concerns or this uncertainty, the manager may also have these uncertainty. And the only way we can know for sure is to put him in there and to see what he's made of. So probably the way to go forward for the next 2-3 games, one, we're playing Burnley, so we should be able to beat them. So if Szoboszlai not available, maybe it would not be such a bad idea to have Trent playing the number 6 position against Burnley and then see how it goes. Because we can't have that experiment in the final against Chelsea or in one of the bigger games. But we need to definitely find out. Because if Bradley is commanding or demanding a spot in the final 11, Trent is our vice captain. Trent is a top footballer. I don't think it's tenable to have him sitting on the bench. So we need to find out if he can play in that midfield. And I would suggest that the next game coming up would be perfect for us to put him there and see if, it's workable. I don't know what you guys think about Trent in the 6.
Yeah, I agree with everything you said there, Paul, especially Conor Bradley demanding a spot in the team right now. It's like after that Chelsea performance, definitely sad news and condolences over the loss of his father. But for Arsenal, it was like that game. It's hard to take him out of the squad with how well he's been performing. But as he said, with Trent, vice captain, the quality of football player he is, you can't leave him on the bench because of what he can add on the team. So, like you said, Klopp has to figure out a way to get him in the team. And also, as you said, what better time of stretch of games to kind of experiment. So I'm wondering if, it's a potential Trent starting at right back, see how we do in the first half of games, maybe up to 60 minutes, and then push him into the midfield and bring on Conor Bradley just as that experiment for like the last 30 minutes of the game, giving Trent more time in the midfield, kind of easing that in to see how it does. But him in the 6, I feel like that's, when he inverts, that works pretty well because he's not operating alone. You can do that double pivot, but I don't know. It'll be interesting. Klopp certainly has his hands full, and none of us have mentioned Thiago either. But we'll throw it out. Real quick question, just to wrap up the midfield debate: who would start for you both for the final against Chelsea? Brandon, just the midfield 3. Who starts?
Just the midfield 3. Is Szoboszlai available?
No.
Okay. Probably the 3 I mentioned. I think it would be Jones, McAllister, and Wataru would be who you'd go to. You'd have 2 very solid.
And the right back?
And the right back? Oh. Put it on. We just watched Bradley destroy Badiashile or whatever. Yeah, Badiashile. Who I put out as a shout as like maybe Liverpool's best player in that game was Badiashile because he was so bad for Chelsea. So if he's starting, put Bradley up against him because he's going to rip him to shreds again. God, that's tough. It's so tough because Trent is the vice captain. Trent's been like the focal point of so much of our creativity over the years. But at a certain point, like you can't choose on what players have done. You have to choose on what they're doing. So that's where if we're choosing today, it might be Bradley over Trent. And then, you'd have the options of Trent in 2 different positions. Maybe if Bradley's not giving us the outlet, then Trent can come in the right back. Maybe, we need to push for something. Maybe Trent could come in the midfield with Bradley still covering it right back. But I think you would have to go with kind of the solid hands in a final with McAllister and Endo doing the defensive work, doing all the hard working, and then Jones doing what he does best. I think that's kind of the 3 you'd have to go with. And then it'd just be kind of a toss-up and maybe who trains better that week for the right back.
Okay.
But I have a theory here. We are scared of putting Trent at the 6 on his own, primarily because of his defensive deficiencies. We all know that he's the best on the ball. But how about, I don't know, one of these commentators, I suppose the BBC, was saying that eventually they see Trent more as a number 10 than a number 6. Maybe we could have Maka at the 6 and Trent a little bit further forward. So maybe one of the 8. Because we have to find a position in the team for him. There's no question. So we have to try and see if it works. We can't assume that he can't play further forward because he does have a shot on him. At the edge of the box, he does have that shot. So what if we could say have Szoboszlai and Trent at the 8 with Maka at the 6? If Trent can really manage that position, we could see a lot of goals coming from that midfield 3, working in tandem with the front 3. So, because if we know what his weaknesses are, and we also know what his strengths are, maybe the way to go is to put him in a spot where we can utilize his strength and limit his deficiencies. So since we know that he can't play at the 6 by himself, maybe a little bit further forward. Because if you put him on the bench, then what incentive would Gareth Southgate have to pick him for the England team? Because if he can't make Liverpool's team, how is he going to represent England? So a lot of these things are popping through my head. So I'm wondering if Trent could be an option further forward. If you look at Jude Bellingham, who is widely regarded as one of the best midfielders in world football right now. Before Bellingham went to Real Madrid, most people, including myself, see him more as a 6 or a deep line box-to-box midfielder. When he went to Madrid and started to play more as a 10, we were all surprised he's playing so far forward. But look at the results. the guy is scoring goals after goals after goals. So had it not been for a coach like Ancelotti that say, you know what, I need this guy further forward. Forget about your defensive responsibilities. I want you to be right behind the striker. So who to tell? Maybe we could try Trent in a role like that. I know we don't play with a 10, but we may just stumble on something. And the fact that we have Bradley and we need to have Bradley in the team, that could possibly be the solution. Am I crazy?
No, I always kind of thought if Trent's moving to midfield, it's more of an 8 role than a 6 role. Like, I just think creativity, like his defensive, not so much. I think deficiencies might be too harsh of a word for Trent. I don't think he's as bad as a lot of people make him out to be defensively, but I think just the work rate, I think he'd work better as an 8 than say a 6. So I definitely am with you on that, Paul. I think definitely if we're moving him into midfield, it might be further forward than a lot of people are thinking that, oh, he's just moving that 6 role and play that quarterback role that Gerrard played the year with Suarez, where he just kind of ping passes and put the ball in behind, let Sturridge and Suarez run on everything. I definitely think he could kind of fit into that role that Szoboszlai is in, like that kind of be in that position, that 8-10 role where he's kind of hybriding in between those two.
Yeah, I'm in a similar boat there. I think Trent as an 8, especially with Szoboszlai out for a little bit, that should be a curious experiment, one worth doing. I don't know if Trent has the best dribbling skills, but he's certainly good enough to pick out a brilliant pass play, in that kind of triangle passing mode, which he does anyways. And yeah, like you, Brandon, I don't think his defense is as bad as everyone says. He's certainly had many brilliant games against top wingers over the years. I think everyone has an off day or can get caught out, especially with getting caught on the counterattack and getting isolated. So definitely be interesting to see how Klopp handles this midfield going forward. Got a fair few stretchy games, players coming back, and we'll see what he does. As far as injuries, sorry, Paul, go on.
No, on the other hand, defending, playing right back, and then having to come up against speedy left wingers. It's probably a harder task to defend out there one-on-one isolated than if you're playing in the middle of the park as a 6. So maybe we are overly concerned about Trent not being able to play as a 6. But unless we give him a run of games there, we probably could be underselling him. Maybe he can do it. I don't know. But the bottom line is, whatever we're going to do, we need to find out what he can do. So we need to try. Because Conor Bradley is forcing our hands. Because Conor Bradley will be in the team. So we need to find out where Trent is going to play. And we can only find that out by putting him in some positions and see how it goes.
100%. And speaking of at least absences, we'll push that on for our final topic on the night. But before we go to there, we just want to thank Jamie's in the chat, Colin chiming in, and I can see we have over 20 viewers right now. I really appreciate y'all being on the stream for our Star Stripes Anfield night, Tuesday night stream. If you have any questions for us, definitely shoot them in the chat so we can answer them before we wrap up tonight. Again, appreciate your viewership and the community we have here tonight. So, as I was saying, we're speaking of absences in the squad. We have Mo Salah being absent for quite some time now with the Africa Cup of Nations, and then picking up the injury. We've done decently without him. We definitely missed him against Arsenal. But one of the rumors that's going through the mill right now is a potential Salah replacement with bids potentially coming in for him in the upcoming window. But Johan Bakayoko from PSV Eindhoven has been touted lately, and he's 20 years old. He plays in the was in the Eredivisie, the Dutch league. He's got pretty great stats for where he's at in his career. I think he's got something like 4 goals in 8 games in the Eredivisie right now. 1 goal in the Champions League, 1 assist. He's putting up pretty good stats. I'm very impressed by his assists, especially at 20 years old. That definitely is showing a lot of potential at his age. And I'm curious if Salah was to move on, if the likes of Darwin Nunez, Jota, Gakpo, Diaz would be shouldering more of the goal burden, if you'd be looking at the right wing as a potential assist machine rather than a goal machine. So, Paul, what do you think of Bakayoko, and what do you think about the future without Salah?
Well, I've been watching this guy, Bakayoko, for the last year or so. Ever since he was linked to Liverpool. I've sort of been following him, and it's clear that he's talented. To get into the Belgium national team at that age, you have to have some talent. Now, I am not ready for Mo Salah to leave. I'm really hoping he give us another year or two. And I think he wants to play at least 1 more year in the Champions League. And we will be playing Champions League football next year, So, but regardless of whether Salah goes now or stays, that should not prevent us from going for Bakayoko. Because even if Salah stays, it probably would be perfect for the young man to come, spend a year in the team, play some games, get some minutes, but not be expected to be the guy from day one. Learn from the best right winger in football and gain some experience, because he's just 20. So if what we are seeing for the fee of something like 35 million euros, to me, that is a no-brainer. And whether we go for him or not should not depend on whether Salah stays or goes, because the guy does have some talent, and he's the kind of player that I think would fit very well in the kind of profile that we have. Young, talented. He's not really a speed merchant from what I noticed, but he's very talented, and he has a very good left foot, and his right foot is decent as well. So he's certainly a talent. So I would be happy if we get him, especially if we can get him for that 35 million-ish euro. I don't think Salah is going to go right now. I think he's going to stay another year. And the fact that he has been away from the team for the past month or so, because of the injuries and away with his national team. And there's been a little bit of talk about how the team is doing well and we don't need Salah with scoring goals. I think this should motivate Mo Salah. So when he's back, I expect him to be at his best to show us this is what you guys miss. So I'm hoping that he's ready to come back soon, and I'm looking forward to him to finish the year with one of those Mo Salah seasons.
Yeah, I'm definitely in that boat as well, where I don't want to see him go. I see, the numbers like Saudi Arabia offering like 150 million, and I can imagine FSG being, if those are true, mightily tempted by numbers like that. But I think his output year after year, he's shown no sign of declining. So I would definitely want him at least another 2 years, and Bakayoko as like a potential understudy would be great. But that being said, I'll bring that question to you, Brandon. What do you think about Bakayoko as a potential Salah replacement? I'll throw up this question that Jay mused to tag into this. He said, would Bakayoko signing potentially block Ben Doak?
No.
And how would you handle the situation of Salah moving on? Would you want someone young like Bakayoko kind of training under him? Or would you want someone ready-made to go as soon to replace Salah?
Let's see. I'm with Paul. I don't think Mo wants to leave. Like, I don't think he's interested in the Saudi Arabia. I think he views the Saudi Arabia thing as maybe something to do when it's time to hang it up. And he's got like, it's like my race is ran. I'm not going to have 45 abs on me anymore because I don't have the work ethic in me anymore because I've ran myself ragged. Like I don't think he is interested in leaving. I think the whole one more go at the Champions League, I think that is a big key to Salah. So I don't think he is interested in leaving. With that said, I think Bakayoko would be great still in the summer, because the shoes to fill Mo Salah just coming in off the street and not like being integrated to the team would just be such a really tough ask for somebody who'd be 20, 21 years old to do that. Like Bakayoko is an incredible talent at 35 million. That should be easy. That should be an easy deal. Like, he's almost somebody you sign, you could sell him a week later for more than you paid for him, because he's that talented. Like, his value almost seems like it should be twice of what they're kind of quoting it at. Like 70 million almost seems like a deal worth doing for such a talented kid. The Doak question, I mean, competition's the best thing for young players. Like, I think that doesn't block Doak. It just gives him something to fight against. Like, if he wants to be the most solid replacement, that gives him somebody to fight against and show that, no, I'm going to be the better player. Like, young players just need competition. They don't, like, we can't be handing an 18-year-old everything because he looks very talented and he's there in the spot. And if we bring somebody like Bakayoko in, this is going to make Ben Doak a much better player too. And that gives us hopefully 2 world-class right wingers at the same time, which would just be torment for everybody else in the Premier League. So I don't think Mo's leaving. I crossed my fingers, but at the same time, I said Klopp wasn't leaving until 2026 at the earliest. So I'm not the smartest guy in the room for like ever. So I've been wrong before, but I really hope I'm not wrong on this one.
Agree with that one, Brandon. Definitely don't want Salah to leave, and I really like what you said about the competition aspect of Doak and a potential Bakayoko signing. I think, especially too with the new manager coming in, there's going to be a lot of spots to fight for. No one, the new manager's traditionally like the fresh slate, and I'm sure there are players in our squad who, as much as they love Klopp, are probably looking forward to a fresh slate to really cement themselves in the team or put their name forward. One coming to mind for me is probably Cody Gakpo, with how many different positions he's had to play this year. None of them really his preferred position for any stretch of time. I can only imagine what a new manager would mean for an opportunity for him to seize, but youngsters as well. I just hope that whoever comes in doesn't stunt the growth of the academy with when we've seen prospects like Kwanzaa come through and Conor Bradley recently. And we know we have a lot of good young players. Tyler Morton out on loan, another one of them. But Ben Doak, we'll see if he can fit into the squad, if he makes it a long-term future at Liverpool. It's great to see the academy players come through, but agreed, competition is always a great team and should be the case for a top club. So that gives us the backup for games like Southampton, as Paul was saying earlier. Got a strong second squad for that. But we're getting close to the end of the stream now, so I'm going to look through the comments to see if there's any I can throw up for the last minute. But while I'm doing that, again, appreciate everyone who's come in and viewed the stream. Really appreciate the community that you are a part of. You're building here with us. We really love the Star Stripes Anfield nights on Tuesday nights, and that wouldn't happen without you guys tuning in. So thank you for that. And let me see. Oh, before I was asked to plug this show for us tomorrow. It's a big moment for us, celebrating 10,000 subscribers for our YouTube channel. So I will throw out the shout out for this tomorrow for our special 10K subscriber stream. I definitely would want to be part of the quiz team, but unfortunately I'll be working that time. Unfortunately, it should be a fun stream for everyone to watch. And let's see. I'm not seeing any questions in the chat. That would be good to wrap up.
Alonso or Amorim.
Okay. Well, there we go. Just found that one. Sorry about that, Jamie. We'll wrap up with how we started and give closing thoughts and who you'd pick for Alonso or Amorim. Paul, start with you.
Well, it's an easy decision for me. It's Alonso. I think the better question would be if Alonso, for whatever reason, is not available. let's say, for example, he said, you know what, I want to spend another couple of years at Leverkusen because I'm not quite ready. Would the sporting manager be the next in line? I am not so sure. Um, I think he won the championship over there just once in 2020, 2021. It's a totally different league to the Premier League. It's a different pressure. I'm not so sure, and he's a young guy. I think he's like late 30s or early 40s. He's even younger than Xabi Alonso, and he doesn't seem to be as flexible as I would like in how he plays. He plays with three at the back. Not necessarily a bad thing, but I don't think three at the back would work with the profile that we have in our team right now. So, I mean, if he comes, then of course I will support him being a Liverpool supporter, but I am not feeling that guy as our second choice. So, all of my eggs is in the Alonso basket. So, let's keep our fingers crossed that if Klopp doesn't change his mind, which apparently he won't, even though I think I saw somewhere that he was rumored to be thinking of going to Barcelona, which I think is crap. But if Klopp doesn't change his mind, my first, second, and third choice is Xabi Alonso.
I agree with you on that, Paul. I actually don't know too much about Amorim, but that's probably just my ignorance for managing outside of the top leagues. But that being said, I kind of am reminded of the Brendan Rodgers appointment, where I think he did a lot of good for the club, but I think especially at this precarious moment where Klopp leaving, I think there's a good platform for the next manager to build, but you wouldn't want any doubts. And the good feeling about Xabi Alonso, the work he's done as a manager so far in career, he'd have the full backing of the Liverpool faithful, and he'd know exactly what the club is about. So I think for me, it's hard to look past him when he's potentially available to take that role. But Brendan, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I'm kind of with you guys. Like, Amorim's done like a good job with Sporting. Well, I think their title was like the first in like 20 years, 19, 20 years or something like that. Hasn't been able to like kind of springboard from that, make it like a league like dominance. Like if they had won like the last three, maybe we're having a conversation. But like he won the one. He's had some disappointments. I think they're doing pretty well this year. I don't know enough about the Portuguese league off the top of my head. Still, it's Alonso. I do have like the worries of Alonso, the way he plays, like in terms of like his formation. At least that's he's playing like right now when he's playing with basically almost like two more attacking midfielders, not like wide wingers. So like we're talking about Bakayoko, who seems to play only on the right wing. Does he actually fit into a Xabi Alonso system, or does he have to be kind of molded into something else? He's young enough to be molded, so that's not the biggest worry. And does he fit with the whole squad? You know, where does Mo fit in? A squad that plays with 10s instead of wingers. Like, I don't know. It's just, you'll find reasons, but at the same time, all the great managers are able to adapt to the team they have and figure out the best ways to utilize everybody. And I don't know. It's just, I don't have the same exact feeling about Alonso as I did with Klopp, because like it was years before Klopp became Liverpool manager. Like it was like kind of still early on in like my fandom of like European footy. I was like, I want that guy to manage my team because he just had that factor about him. Alonso kind of has that same thing where you just can kind of tell he's got some form of world-class manager in him. Whether it comes true or not, that's, up to the future to decide. But really, he just seems like he has that factor about him. Like, I don't think the job will ever be too big for him. I don't think he's ever going to be overwhelmed by anything that can come up in a club the size of Liverpool. Like, he just seems like the perfect kind of almost like how Klopp runs on high emotions and all that. Xabi just seems to have that little bit more of a cool factor about him where he just almost like nothing really bothers him. I don't know if I don't watch enough of their games to know if that's completely different as a manager, but he just has that kind of thing about him where he seems like he's just very easy, very good to play with, play under. Wow, I can't talk tonight. I think he's very easy to play under and kind of grow under as well. I think he just has that automatic respect from me.
Yeah, definitely agree with that. He's a suave character for sure. And on that, I kind of hope future down the line, a bit of an oddball comment, but I don't know if either of you know the background between Xabi Alonso and Peter Crouch over Peter Crouch's comments about Xabi Alonso's wife. But for those who don't know, when they were playing together, Peter Crouch had met this, I believe she was the concierge or manager of a hotel, and chatted with her, thought she was absolutely amazing and beautiful. And he went into the locker room and basically chatted about how he thinks this hotel manager loves him or likes him. She thinks he's beautiful, amazing woman. And then Carragher was like, yeah, that's Alonso's wife. And
yeah, I heard that.
I'm thinking ahead to Peter Crouch on, I think he works at the BBC, but interviewing Alonso again. I'm sure that would come up at some point. But on that note, sorry for the oddball comment to wrap it up, but really appreciate everyone who tuned into the stream. Again, I really appreciate your viewership, everyone in the chat. Big moment for us getting the 10,000K subscribers, and y'all have been part of that. If you're new to the channel, please like and subscribe. We bring content every day, and it's a community open to everyone. You'll never walk alone. Thanks for joining. Have a great rest of your week.